Hello, undesirables. How you guys? How you losers and misfits and people out in Call Land tonight? How y'all doing tonight? Y'all basically listening to the only person in your life that gives you any meaning, any substance, and everything, and that basically engages you, and that gives a damn about you. That's your friendly host, the College Genesis, the chief host of the Voice of the College Nation radio show, broadcasting on DeVille Radio Wednesday nights at 11 p.m. Eastern Time, and also on YouTube every now and then, every night, basically on YouTube. I am the College Genesis, right? The geopolitical pundit and culture critic. My job is not, I don't come online just to piss people off, something like that. That's just a side effect to what I do. My job is to be truthful in what I say, and I like engaging people. That's why I don't ban people in my show and whatnot. I let people speak how they want to speak, because I believe this show is like the only show that really tells things the way they are or they should be, and put things into fact and perspective. For which tonight we're going to talk about a controversial topic, like that's been going around for 15 years. You know, is Africa rising? I bought into it. I never forget, man. It was back in 2008, 2009, man. I was on the wow, man. Africa's rising. They got infrastructure. They got diamonds. They got gold. They got oil. Man, if we tap into Africa, man, we're gonna be free. We're gonna have our own shit and everything like that, but it didn't pan out like that. 15 years later, right? And we got more Africans living in the West, and we're not fleeing the continent and everything. And we got more poverty, more everything. So whatever happened to Africa rising? I want to know the people who still believe in Africa rising and everything. Like, whatever happened with that? How could you rise? How could Africa be rising? Well, then again, they went by statistics, right? Africa did have a lot of growth, growth for that. But like I said, I knew from my years at the Shiloh Institute, those growth and stuff like that are really relative. On paper, it looks like a country developing, right? But their physical infrastructure and the standard of living of the people don't change, So can you really say it had growth? He's like, Ghana has been growing at one of the fastest growing economies in the world, but Ghana is dirt poor. Overall, Ghana is poor. Same thing with Nigeria. Same thing with all these countries in Africa. But we applaud them for their effort because, in terms of Black people in Africa, people and Black people in general, we got to take any sort of good news and everything like that, because we always say that Black people created civilization and everything like that, but we settle for mediocrity. We settle for being last place on the globe and everything like that. We settle for being a basket case. There was this lady that was out back in the same time of Africa Rising, called Dembi Beyonce, whatever her name is. Somebody said she's Zambian. She was a British Zambian economist, and she had an article called "Dead Aid: How Foreign Aid is Killing the Continent" and stuff. But some people dismissed her as blah blah blah. You just wrong like that. But she said, "Look, not only Africa not rising, but Africa is so dependent on foreign aid instead of foreign direct investment. Why isn't foreign direct investment the number one thing instead of aid? Most Africans depend on foreign aid as opposed to foreign investment and private sector investment. But yeah, she was dismissed back then and whatnot because basically nobody wanted to hear us. So all we know is that China was coming to Africa and putting billions of dollars on the continent and everything. You had Negroes in America all excited, man. I'm going home, man. I'm going to the motherland. I'm saying I'm gonna get rich or not. Negroes had never had jack in America, never opened up a fruit stand or a lemonade stand in America, right? Where hipster their star to the Africa, they got Africa fever, and that culminated in 2019 with the so-called year return. Another debacle on the international set, another embarrassing debacle. Everyone say, when are we going to? Look. The bottom line is this: Africa is our motherland and everything like that. Can we just basically love Africa without thinking that Africa is going to deliver for anything for us? That's the point I'm at right now. Okay, let's just say we look out for Africa. Africa's our homeland. We know that's where our ancestors come from. We're always gonna have a love for the continent. But let's say basically we need to give up this idea that we're gonna friggin' benefit from whatever Africa has to offer. I know for a fact I'm not interested in African diamonds. I'm not interested in gold. I'm not interested in oil. I'm not interested in any of these things Africa has. Lithium, whatever they have. I hope that just that Africans on the continent could take all these things that they say they have and create a better life for themselves. That's what makes me happy. I am done basically looking at Africa as a future, and Africa is the future. Africa rising. Africa's a future. Blah blah blah. Future of fucking what? What's up, wise man? Future of what? What is the future? Future of poverty, future of misery, future of discomfort, and everything like that. I know a lot of people can get mad at me tonight, but I gotta tell it like it is, right? Because bottom line is, if I could basically be a realist and a reformed Pan-African moron, an idiot that basically told people for years how Africa is a fucking the future and everything like that, and that people put their lives on the line and actually listen to what I had to say, and they made life-changing decisions. Well, I got to take some responsibility for that. That's why I'm doing what I'm doing now. I got to start taking responsibility for, people putting their lives on hold and whatnot, people going out there saying, I'm going to the continent when because I was the number one person preaching the freaking African gospel, Africa rising, Africa the future and everything like that. But I couldn't get anything off the ground, and I basically was like, I had all my ducks in a row, everything I was trying to do, that would have worked, but the bottom line is, just look, this is how life is, right? There's the unhappy and unlucky, right? Some people just don't have luck. Some people, problems just basically overwhelm them. And sometimes people just aren't meant to be what they are and suffer what they are. We have to accept that fact, Africa is always going to be poor, it's always going to be backwards, it's always going to be underdeveloped. Now, if they could pull it off themselves, and somehow some miracle happens and whatnot, they have an epiphany or an enlightenment and everything like that, then I would humble myself and go over there and I would try to assimilate into the continent and everything. But I can't talk about assimilating into a fucking backward culture, a backward society that can't do the basics. You can't build a bed. You can't guarantee everybody the basics like freaking clean water and electricity and refrigeration and shit like that. Just a basic of a modern life. The basics that the world has been using for like 150 years. A refrigeration is like a luxury. Pipe-borne water is a luxury and whatnot. So if education, right, is a luxury, you got to pay for that and whatnot. Instead of that being part of the culture and the value of a good healthcare system. Those right there. But when you got countries spending hundreds of millions, like Museveni years ago spent this is what I should have woken up right back in 2010, right? But I didn't. I was a fool. There was this guy. There's a lot of African bloggers and stuff like that who say a lot of stuff, and look online, YouTube. There's a lot of people out there who tell the truth. Africans who tell the truth about the continent, right? But nobody wants to hear what they have to say. This one blogger from Uganda was criticizing Museveni's hosting of the Commonwealth. I don't know, it was a Commonwealth thing, whatever like that. And he was going to spend $200 million, $200 million, right, on this thing, hosting dignitaries from the UK and all these other people for, I don't know, was something like that. Well, anyway, the guy was, and at the same time, right, I was watching this documentary how women in rural Uganda were still getting eaten by crocodiles at the river. And I'm saying to myself, how the hell are you going to spend hundreds of millions of dollars and you say there's no money for basic stuff like drilling wells and creating a system like the Mr. Beast did, where people got clean water where they could wash and all stuff like this. That's what the government should have done. And I said to myself, that conflicted at the time with my idea of Africa rising, right? Because I completely ignored that. I basically said, yeah, it is what it is. Maybe then I realized now that not only that was that the norm, because you can go to that same rural part of Uganda and not a damn thing has changed. In 2024, there's still people getting taken by crocodiles because they got to go to the water and get bathe their, wash their clothes in water instead of having a water system and everything like that pumped in with filtration and stuff like that. While Uganda has millions of dollars that they give politicians and everything for salaries and everything, the people got in rural areas. Not saying all Ugandans are like that, but there should be nobody in your country that lives under those conditions. Nobody. So the bottom line is, Africa Rising has been a farce. Zongo, as usual, the usual suspect. I'm sorry, Year Return was not a debacle. Yeah, it was. It was a joke. It was a fucking joke, man. The Year Return, man. It was like one of the most embarrassing events in our history. The Year Return. That was fucking embarrassing. Yeah, the Year Return had Nancy Pelosi over there. The Year Return had fucking Kim Kardashian over there. The Year Return also had Cardi B over there. Tell me again how that was such a great thing, Zongo, how that was such a Pan-African event and everything. And the bottom line, why was the U.S. Congresswoman, Speaker of the House Pelosi, over there and everything like that, talking about Africa and Pan-Africanism, whatever it was, on our behalf and everything. I'm saying to myself, that was the so-called Year Return, that we're bringing the fucking same people we're trying to freaking run from over to Ghana and whatnot. And I'm like, like I said, but I didn't say nothing back then because people all joyous. Yeah, Year Return, blah, blah, blah. But that was a friggin' most embarrassing thing, man. They hijacked the Year Return and made it a kumbaya, rainbow, whatever that. Yeah, the Year Return also tried to introduce the LGBTQ to Ghana and all this kind of stuff like this. Hollywood people and everything like that. So the bottom line is this, as Africa wants to survive, man, it has to basically start putting their foot down and telling some of these so-called African Americans that you're not wanted here, go to fuck home and whatnot. We don't need you. If Africa could do that and whatnot, just say we don't need you and everything like that, we're going to straighten Africa out. We don't want your influence and everything like that. When we build Africa up and we're ready to have you and host you here, we're going to have something for you to come to, and we want you to be a part of our society and assimilate and everything. But Africa has to build that sort of society, to gain the respect of the black people from the West. The way things are going right now, man, it's a joke. We're lying to ourselves. Africa Rising, and Africa's the future. That's no, the way things are going right now. No, it's not. So I know I'm going to have a lot of blowback tonight. People are going to call in and say, I'm sacrilege, Kyle. Why you always dissing Africa? Look, the bottom line is this. I want to see Africa rise. I do want to see Africa rise. But like I said, I should have known years ago. I always thought that going to Africa, I'm going to be escaping from Negroism and white supremacy and everything. Then I realized from going to Liberia and going to different places in Africa and just listen to Africa one night, that whatever I'm trying to run from in America, not only is follow me to Africa, is sitting on the shore waiting for me with a welcoming arm saying, we're ready to kick your ass here too, Negro. So the same stupid stuff that we encounter in America, we're encountering in Africa. Disrespect, tribalism, which is racism, tribalism, all this kind of foolishness and everything like that. People, money grab, people robbing you, people disrespecting you, and all this like that. So like that, I thought we were leaving America for that. I thought we were going to find paradise on the continent. That's not how it happens, because you can't. If you're not respected in your home country where you're born, you're not going to be respected in another country. Don't work like that. So therefore, we went over Africa in a position of weakness and desperation, and Africans sense that, and they sense that that's how they're going to treat you. That you're desperate and you're needy and everything like that, because you went over there talking about, like in Tanzania. How do you have fucking black people that went over to Tanzania? And Tanzania is like government. It's like talking to the U.S. government. We got all these African Americans over here. When not all you have to do is show them a couple of modern buildings, and African Americans do not know how to look at GDP. They don't know how to look at industries, infrastructure, and everything. All they see is a couple of modern buildings and everything, and they think they're going to go over to Africa and get a job and work and all stuff like that, and it never pans out. You have fools out there in Tanzania that apply for asylum. You coming from the United States, the most prosperous country in the world in history of mankind, and you're going to friggin' a third world country seeking asylum. That was during the George Floyd thing and whatnot. Like I said, the whole Africa Rising and this whole stupid nonsense and everything like that, Africa being an alternative to America, was a complete embarrassment. A complete embarrassment, to the black race. What's up, Rizza? Black race went out. We have to rethink everything, If you're going to have Pan-Africanism and black nationalism, we have to start all over again, and do what I said, the College Genesis said. You need black African infrastructure. That means if we go to the continent, we need to be able to build infrastructure, and contribute to the continent equally, like by having money transfer. And we have to have our own political and diplomatic and all that stuff like that on the continent, so I am giving you solutions, Zongo. Here's the solutions. I want people to call in tonight, and when I tell you and answer Zongo, am I giving solutions? I'll be like this. Zongo thinks everything is okay. Yeah, look, the bottom line is this, man. This what we're doing right now, as far as like Pan-Africanism and stuff like that, is not working, and it's only making the relationship between black people around the world worse. It's making it worse. And black people from America, I don't know. I just think that, I don't know what to do about black America and everything like that. We're still hurt about slavery. I get that. We're still reeling over slavery and how this country treated us and blah, blah, blah. And we think we deserve reparations on that. But the bottom line is this. The majority of black people in America don't think like that. They just try to make a life for themselves in America and do what they have to do, And so those of us who are real Pan-Africanists, who pretty much have success in America, wanted to basically get with a part of Africa that we thought that was progressive like we are, Like, the series Blacks Without Borders in South Africa, right? That was a win-win situation because South Africa was pretty much a first world developed country. So black people who went there were getting into all things like the diamond industry, banking, finance, and all the stuff like this. So it was something to work with, and also the black economic empowerment in South Africa also means African Americans could take part of BEE. When, in other words, African American could go to South Africa and benefit from those laws that meant to empower black people. No other country has that, So South Africa was smart in that regard. They basically said, look, if we could basically get the sort of black people from America, and they did, they got millionaires to come there, to invest in a country with highly technological and advanced people going over there, right? The rest of the continent has not done that, has not done that. So that's why I say, when we said Africa rising, I was talking about a situation like South Africa. I was not talking about friggin' what's going on in Ghana and Tanzania, which is a friggin' joke. You got so-called African Americans going over to Tanzania, just doing bad, failing. But these are young people, though. A lot of these people are millennials. They're in their 20s and 30s. I guess if you're in your 20s and 30s, hey, go for it. Live on the continent, make your mistakes, whatever like that. And I know by the time you're in your 40s and whatnot, you ain't got no money saved, no nothing. You'll be back to the United States, and try to get into a vocational school or go back to college, whatever like that. And then you'll be like, oh, yeah, when I turn 65, I'm going back to the continent as usual, what do you think about Africa is mistreated in Lebanon? It doesn't surprise me. Lebanon basically is a shithole country, but they make all their money, like $30 billion a year cash from West Africa, sucking West Africa like a parasite, sucking West Africa dry. And they have no respect for Africans and everything, but the Africans worship the Lebanese. I'm telling the Africans over there, whatever they're doing, you could do the same friggin' thing. But the African, his mind is so friggin' inferior. He thinks that he needs these people over there to bring him basic stuff. You mean tell me you can't import Coca-Colas and whatnot, and distribute them and all this stuff like this, Why do you need the Lebanese to fucking do all the stuff that you do? Why aren't you not empowering the government, not empowering local people to do all the things, the merchants and stuff like that, giving them lines of credit so they can go around the world bringing stuff back to the country and set up their own distribution systems and everything like that to cut the Lebanese out of their economy and keep money? Because Lebanese, when they make the money, they take the money offshore and put it in their own banks and send it overseas. When an African makes the money, they basically keep the money in the economy. So the fact that Africans don't think that's necessary and everything like that, there's, like I said, which we call Baruti. I guess Baruti thinks the year return was great, even though there's no, you can't show any tangible of the fact that black people spent a lot of money and they went there and whatnot. $1 billion, man, should have basically, you should see some real results in Ghana with that influx of cash right now. Ghana should be on its way right now. That's the initial cash. People, Singapore and Thailand, all these countries became industrialized with less initial cash than that. Ghana got $1 billion and it's still struggling. You know, there was no plan to take that money and wealth and everything like that and build industries and stuff like that and build the private sector up of trade and everything like that. There was no plan for that. You know, so the bottom line is this, man. I'm not going to sit here and candy coat this thing no more. You know, I am not a fool, you know, and I'm not going to play black people. Well, I'm not going to play Africans and I'm not going to play black Americans for fools anymore. You know, we do not have the right sort of leadership in Africa and black America to do anything. That's just an honest to God truth, the way I see it. You know, we do not have the leadership. We don't have sincere people doing it. We have a lot of emotional people who got a lot of ideas, but they don't know how to implement them and do like this, you know? The Doomsar is really atrocious. I don't know what that is. You know, Doomsar is really atrocious. I don't know what that is, G. You gotta come up here and tell us what you're talking about, you know? You know, so but that's just the way it is, you know. So we could talk about Africa rising, is Africa the future and stuff like that. Not the way things are going right now. You know, not the way things are going right now. When for the most part, when Africa rejected the idea of an Afghanistan, you know, look at Dubai. But I would say that the Afghanistan is something like a Dubai, a separate territory which you could bring multinational people to build and whatnot, to conduct business and everything like that on your shores. The fact that Africans say, you know something, Dubai is a good idea, you know, it's a good idea when billions of people come there when not live across the world. They do business transactions, they open businesses, they employ people, blah blah blah. We can make billions of dollars by now. That doesn't mean that the people we're not gonna lose our culture because Dubai is Dubai and the UAE is the UAE. But why has the Africans never said let's create a separate territory for the diaspora to build? They could build real estate, they could build this, they could build that, and they can govern and administer themselves because they're going to be able to put their own banks and transfer billions of dollars, right, from their pension funds, everything like that. That's what Dubai did. Well, why hasn't the African countries ever thought about doing that? You know, why? What is wrong with the African mind? They don't think on that level. You know, the African mind is thinking how they got lithium instead of them getting into the lithium business and knowing how to manufacture batteries and getting into the electric car business themselves. They're basically looking for whoever's going to exploit them for their thing. They don't even mind the stuff themselves. They let somebody else come in. How complicated is mining is? Mining is very easy. Mining and farming are two basic things I think any society ought to master. You should not have to have like Mali right now is basically and Burkina Faso is basically mining its own gold. I don't know if I really don't know if those are foreign companies in partnership with the government and everything like that. I don't know. Or it's local businessmen and whatnot who know how to mine this stuff and put the stuff in bullion and sell the stuff on gold markets or global world. I don't know yet. Well, the time to see, but I think they're heading in the right direction. You know, you cannot have another race of people mining in your country. Nigeria needs to nationalize its oil industry, you know, immediately. Nationalize its oil industry, right? Kick out Shell, kick out BP, and all these other parasites that do absolutely nothing, you know? And that's what needs to happen across the continent. And when that happens, then you could tell me about Africa rising. But until that happens, look, I am not going to candy coat this no more. You know, as long as we have this friggin' neo-colonial system in Africa and whatnot, don't talk to me about no fucking Africa. You know, I don't want to hear it. The continent can go to hell for all I care. You know, and then you got to sit here and call me a fucking colonizer. You know, and I only my whole life only want the best for my mother continent. You know, and I thought I thought the fact that if we could build our own state on the continent, we could bring people over there, build. We could all, from a position of power and strength, we can build the continent together. We have power in North America and here when not. But here I get attacked every day and every fucking night by people who can't live in their own countries, and they friggin' over here telling me what I can't do it on my mother continent. And they're over here while the white man got all their wealth, the white people, the Chinese people. And let me see, you know what it's like to go to Liberia, right? And Liberia, a country founded in the Constitution for black men. Why am I looking at in the rural areas of Grand Bassa? I'm looking at fucking Chinese, right? Chinese people, Chinese men walking up and down and whatnot, with the so-called indigenous people and whatnot. I don't know what they're looking for. Diamonds. I don't know. I think people said diamonds, or they could be sand mining. I don't know what they're doing. But the bottom line is, what the hell are they doing in a country my ancestors built? What the hell is going on? You gonna tell me about Africa rising? Stop it. Stop it. I am so sick and tired of hearing that. And I'm sick and tired of people telling Black America how Africa's rising and whatnot. It's a friggin' lie. It's a lie. Africa does not want to rise. Africa wants to stay just the way it is. A place of fucking misery. That's the truth. I dare anybody to come up here and try to friggin' debate me on this shit. Because I will rip you to pieces. I will tear you to fucking pieces tonight. I am ready for anybody. Anybody want to smoke? I'm ready for you. I don't want to hear no more freaking dumb advice of, Africa's right. Because no, it's bullshit. It's freaking bullshit with whipped cream on it. So let's get the party started, Before I get the party started, I want to play. I think I should play that Africa Rising video. Let me find the Africa Rising video from like a decade ago. Let me see if I can find that. Let me see if I can find that. And Baruti made a comment and whatnot. I don't know what the hell Baruti. He's one of these, Africa could do no wrong Negroes. Yeah, Africa Rising. Africa Rising. This was the biggest farce ever played on the black race, Africa Rising. Africa Rising with Russia, the world watching the worst discovery. Okay. Let me find a good video about this, Here's a good video. Let me see. Let's see what TED Talks have to say. I'm only gonna play a few minutes of this video, G. So I'm gonna play a couple of videos, see what this character has to say. The name of the videos is Africa Really Rising.
Let me start by apologizing. If by the time I'm done talking, you'll be upset, depressed, or even angry. But that is precisely my intention. I hope that we can channel that anger into some constructive conversation that will lead to solutions to some of the problems that I'm going to highlight in my talk. And I'll tell my talk through 3 short stories. The first I've called simply, Africa is not rising. So you see how it's starting to annoy you. I think that there is quite a number of profound flaws to the Africa Rising narrative. The first one being, were coined not by an African, but a well-meaning Western journalist. somebody who's standing outside, looking in, and comparing the state of the continent today to what it was 15 years ago. Obviously, it's better today than what it was 15 years ago. And we have embraced that narrative without questioning it. And I think that's why we are where we are, where I begin to question this whole idea of Africa rising. And it's not the first time that we have believed without seeing. You know, the Africa rising narrative is based on a very simplistic observation, an unfair comparison of the economic growth of some African countries over the last 10, 15 years, averaging something like 6 to 7%, compared to a very sluggish growth in the West. After the global financial crisis, the West has not been growing so fast.
So, as usual, we accepted the name without questioning what it means. Now, the comparison between Africa and Europe is so unfair. I think that a fairer comparison would have been between Africa, a continent of about 1 billion people, and China in its rising years, about 20 years ago. China had also around 1 billion people. But if China could rise at 18% at the peak of its rising, why would 6 to 7% be called impressive? Unless, of course, we have accepted a special standard for Africa, a mediocre standard for Africa. Today, China is growing at 8%, and the whole world is calling it a recession. But Africa growing at 6% is special. Should we accept this standard as Africans? And if so, to what end? Why would we do that? The third flaw that I see in the Africa rising narrative is that we have never actually tried to connect the so-called Africa's rise to decisions by Africans themselves, to connect the rise to decisions. I mean, the gentleman from Rwanda did demonstrate a link between his country's leadership decisions and the rise in life expectancy in his country. But that's Rwanda. That's not the whole of Africa. Africa is being painted with one brush as having risen. Everybody should be happy. But if you look at what has caused the GDP growth in these countries that have pushed up this average number, it's mostly commodities trade. But I don't remember African countries going out en masse to China, to India, marketing their commodities back in the 1990s when this trade started. It was the other way around. It's the Chinese who came looking. It's the Indians who came looking. It's the big Western oil conglomerates that came looking. Most times, facing resistance and all manner of issues from suspicious Africans who are sitting on resources whose value they don't even understand. That's what happened. That's how this rising occurred. It reminds me of a situation where if I'm on a highway and I'm stopped for speeding, I actually don't need the cop to remind me that I was driving above the speed limit. I actually know. It's just been caught. Because I'm driving. I know that I was driving above the speed limit. But what if I was being towed in my own car, and I'm sitting at the wheel of my car, and I have a towing truck in front of me, and we get stopped for speeding? What would I say if the cop came to me in my car that is being towed and said he wanted to give me a ticket for overspeeding? I would admit having oversped because my car is moving above the speed limit, but the guy responsible for the ticket must be the tow truck driver, not me. And because we have not bothered to understand what is driving our rise, but accepted the praise, I think that is a big flaw in this whole narrative that we need to start questioning. I'm going to try and back this up with some facts and figures. You know that in this century, but also even before, you cannot have meaningful development without electricity. Now, France has a population of 65 million people, yet it generates 4 times more electricity, 4 times, than all the 47 sub-Saharan African countries generate for their 805 million people. What that means is that a French person consumes 50 times more electricity than an African today. So what do you say if a Frenchman told you your continent is rising? You have to ask yourself, what exactly is he saying? And then there is a lot of talk about trade. Africa joining the world and becoming a partner in global trade. I don't know if you've checked, moving a ton of fertilizer from a US port to the Kenyan port of Mombasa, which is a 9,000 kilometer journey, costs $40. But moving the same ton of fertilizer from Mombasa to Kampala, 1,000 kilometers away, costs $120.
You can skip this video, but you can't skip the truth. Right now, in North Gaza, children are going to bed hungry every night. The recent conflict has left
That is 30 times, costs 30 times more to move cargo across African borders than it costs to move cargo to African ports. So you cannot be rising if you are at such a disadvantage today, not last year, today. And then energy security. There's nothing more important to a country's security, to a country's progress, without energy, generally, energy security. Yet African countries, poor as they are today, they import $19 billion, sub-Saharan African countries, of oil every single year. That is against cash payments being made by African countries to oil producers elsewhere, against $16 billion a year received in the form of aid. That cannot be constituting rising. But now let's talk about aid. Now I know aid has come under a lot of criticism, but aid can actually work. And there are examples of good aid all over the place for us to see. Germany was a recipient of aid after the Second World War. So was Japan, so was South Korea, so was Malaysia, or even famous Singapore. They all received aid. But there's something special about them, which is they all, without exception, graduated from being aid recipients within 20 years. By the time those 20 years were over, they were actually giving aid to other people. But Africa, 60 years later, Africans are negotiating on a global stage the next form of aid they think they want to be getting. Why is it that we are not?
Can everybody hear me in the chat? Everybody hear me in the chat? Somebody saying there's something wrong with the live. You know, can everybody hear me in the chat? You know, can everybody hear me in the chat? Press 1 if you can hear me. Oh well, they I guess they freaking knocked me off tonight and whatnot. The bottom line is this, you know, JC, let me end stream.